See, Como itself, what I like about it so much is it has a lived-in feel. I think the population's like 60,000 people. There's a Sephora there, so it doesn't feel like you're in the middle of nowhere.
There's civilization. There's a Sephora.
Exactly. Yeah.
Traveling the world to bring you delicious dishes, tasty beverages, and interesting experiences. This is the Destination Eat Drink Podcast on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
Welcome to Destination Eat Drink, the travel podcast for foodies, because the best part of any trip is what you eat. I'm Brent Peterson, and this week we're exploring Lake Como and Italy's lake region with freshwater seafood, cookies for the Queen's Communion, and buffalo milk gelato. And my guest for this show is Jackie DeGiorgio, also known as a Signorina in Milan at asignorinainmilan.com. Jackie's a podcaster and a tour guide in her adopted city of Milan. I had her on the show a couple years ago to talk about everything to do and to eat in Milan, and thought it'd be great to have her back on the show to talk about the nearby lakes region. As you probably know, if you're going to Lake Como or whatnot, you're going to be starting in Milan. And I'm sure you've heard of Lake Como, but did you know there's lots of other lakes that you can visit nearby? Jackie's an expert on the region, and she gives some great tips for visiting Lake Como, but also some of these hidden gems. And there's also lots of food, like dinner in a cave, polenta instead of pasta, and a 3 Michelin star restaurant on Lake Orta. Plus the super hip vinyl bars in Milan, and I'm starving, so let's eat.
Destination Eat Drink.
Jackie DeGiorgio, a.k.a. a Signorina in Milan. Welcome back to Destination Eat Drink. It's been too long.
Thank you so much for having me, Brent. I'm so happy to be back.
You know, we had you on a couple years ago, and you shared so much great information about Milan. Before we hop into talking about the lakes region, which is near Milan, tell me about what's going on in Milan since we last spoke with you. Milan's a big cosmopolitan, vibrant city. There must be new stuff, and you're a foodie. You're always talking about great stuff on your blog, signorinainmilan.com. Tell me what's new and exciting in your world.
Oh my goodness. So much is happening right now. Obviously the Olympics just wrapped up, and I think it brought a lot of people to the city and gave it so much attention, which is incredible. But I think there's also plenty of other reasons to visit Milan, one of which is our incredible food scene. We're seeing a lot right now. Well, I feel like last year saw a lot of listening bars popping up.
What's a listening bar?
They're inspired by Japanese listening bars, which were pretty much jazz cafes where people went once upon a time to listen to vinyl.
Okay.
They had very rigid rules. It was like speak softly, if at all. Here, the rules are a little more relaxed, and they're sort of mixing vinyl with, inventive cocktails, small production wines, inventive food, and it's just a lot of fun. So we're seeing a lot of those popping up lately.
Tell me about one or two of your favorite places, and what kind of vinyl are we going to be listening to? Because I'm much older than you. I'm an old analog vinyl 8-track guy. So I love these vinyl rooms. Tell me about what we'd listen to and what kind of cocktails we might enjoy.
So I would say if you were coming here again, you should go to Dexter in Isola. They have it. The owner is a young British chef whose last name has escaped me right now. Well, he's half Milanese and half British. He was born in Milan, grew up in London, and came back. And it's named Dexter because it was his grandfather's last name, and he inherited his grandfather's vinyl collection.
Oh, cool.
So and it's all on display in the restaurant. A lot of it, there's sort of like a lot of it is rooted in jazz, and they have, it's nice. He worked all around the world in different restaurants, including, Central and Lima. And so he does some really innovative food. Like it sort of takes like for instance, one of his most popular dishes is like a cutlet inspired by the Milanese veal cutlet, but with, I believe there's tempura on it. He adds different, international, just an international flair to it and does something different. And they have a lot of really great small production wines there that are, maybe up to 50 that they change regularly. And it's very ambient. And they don't have, so some of these places probably have a more proper schedule, might feature DJs. Theirs is a little more informal. They put on whatever they're in the mood for, and only select customers who are trusted can change the vinyl themselves.
Yeah, this is right up my alley because I had a huge vinyl collection. My first career was in radio decades ago, and I had a huge vinyl collection, and I had to get rid of it because we were moving around, and vinyl is really hard to transport. If you've got a dedicated vinyl room and you're going to live there the rest of your life, then you can have it, but it just became too much of a burden to be moving vinyl records here and there. So I had to get rid of it. Now I live vicariously through it. And it reminds me of when we were in Rhode Island. There was this little pizza joint that did Naples style pizza right on the waterfront, right on the ocean front. And they spun vinyl. And I remember I donated some of my vinyl. I donated my Beatles Sgt. Pepper's picture disc, which had a picture on the actual vinyl. I donated that to them for their collection, and they were really happy to get that. So love this. Any other vinyl bars you want to tell me about, Jackie?
Yes. Another pretty cool one is called Futura. What I like about it is that it's very narrow. You go there, it's pretty much standing room only, except for a few seats on the side. They don't serve special curated food, but they have some really thoughtful cocktails, and they have up to like 3 DJs a night. It's kind of near the Navigli area. And what I like about it being there is that that's one of those neighborhoods in the city it can be kind of iffy because its reputation for nightlife precedes it. So there's a lot of tourist traps there. There's a lot of places serving, I feel like if you're walking along there and you walk past a cafe or bar that has one of those sidewalk charts with the drink prices are like 2 for $1, that's always a red flag.
Yeah, right.
So I always like when there's something down there that's great to talk about and celebrate. So that's another fun spot. And that's definitely more late night, I would say. Some of these other places you can go to a little earlier at like 6 or 7, have an aperitivo and, talk while the music is blaring. I mean, it's not so loud that that I would say like in what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe like oppressive, where you feel like you're at a concert and you can't speak. But at the same time, it's I wouldn't recommend it maybe for like a first date, or if you're catching up with a good friend or something like that, because it can be difficult to hear. But
yeah. and this is why people should check out your blog, signorinainmilan.com, because it curates all of the best places. You talk about it's in the middle of tourist traps. This would be a place you might, if you're just wandering down the street, you might take a wrong turn and might go into a place that's not so great. There's places like that in Lisbon too. One of my favorite wine shops and cheese bars is in a place that's very touristy. And you might get sucked into one of these other places by the fancy signs and the lights and stuff. But, this is the place where you really need to go. So thank you for that tip, Jackie. All right, so we're going to leave Milan now, and we're going to do a day trip, because a lot of people, they come into Milan and then they go to the lakes region, and everyone's heard of Lake Como and maybe some of these other lakes as well. Let's talk about that a little bit. First of all, how close are we to the lakes region from Milan? How do you get there? What are the logistics involved, Jackie?
We're pretty close to the lakes in the sense that, obviously, I think for when you're traveling here, if you're renting a car, I always say that's probably the easiest way to get around to most places. But some of the places you can reach by train, which is really helpful, especially if you're doing a day trip. For instance, Lake Como, you can probably the most popular day trip there, for better or for worse, is taking the train from Central Train Station to Varena. And that's that really beautiful town. You've probably seen it all over Instagram. They have what it's really famous for in the spring. It has this walkway. I believe it's called like the Lovers Promenade or the Lovers Walkway it's just beside the water. And it sort of has like a pergola over it. And in the spring, it's just blooming with wisteria. And it's so beautiful. And it's a true Instagram darling, I would say. So it's that town, and where it's located on the Lecco branch of the lake, and there's a ferry loop that goes from there to Bellagio, which makes it like the most popular day trip option you can think of. And it's starting to get a little daunting, I would say, in the sense that now you can buy your ferry ticket in advance, but that doesn't mean you're guaranteed a time. So you still have to wait to get on the ferry. And sometimes there can be like 2 or 3 that pass before you're able to get on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's why I say I think it's easier if you have a car, or if you can even, if you have the resources, a driver to take you around, so then you don't have to worry about parking and whatnot. And even better is, I would say maybe like a boat tour as well, because then the boat will drop you off at the towns from the water.
If you're enjoying Destination Eat Drink, take a moment to rate and review the show on your podcast app. Just takes a moment, and it helps other foodie travelers just like you find the show. And if you want to hear more of my conversation with Jackie, become a member of my Substack. Members get access to the full interview where we talk about aperitivo in the Lakes region and a very surprising spot to get a cocktail. Become a member of my Substack at destinationeatdrink.substack.com. And now, more with Jackie. So these lakes are pretty big, and everyone's heard of Lake Como. But are there any less touristy places on Lake Como itself that you think, oh, this might be an alternative rather than doing this cattle herd from the train station to Bellagio and that kind of idea?
Personally, it's kind of funny that I'm saying this, because my actual favorite town on Lake Como is Como itself, which is also reachable from Milan from a different train station. Well, you can get there too from the central train station, but I think the easiest way is to go from Cadorna, and that brings you to Como City in about an hour. The stop is Como Lago. You come off right across the street from the lake. And I like that town a lot, especially if you're staying overnight there, since it is a popular day trip destination. It does tend to become a little more quiet at night. And there are a lot of great restaurants and bars there and places to hang out. It feels a little less, see, Como itself, what I like about it so much is it has a lived-in feel. I think the population's like 60,000 people. There's a Sephora there, so it doesn't feel like you're in the middle of nowhere.
There's civilization. There's a Sephora.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I like that a lot. But once, of course, during the day, it's a completely different experience. And I think maybe one of the best ways to experience the lake is to go further up to the northern branch, because I think you know how it's set up. It's sort of like that upside down Y, and then there's Como, and then there's Lecco. They meet here at Bellagio at the tip, and then it goes up. And Colico is probably the northernmost point. But up on that northern branch, there are some cool towns to see. One I always recommend, especially for history buffs, is Dongo. It's actually where Mussolini was apprehended. And they have
that's the place. Okay. Yeah, I remember because he fled, and didn't he try to like be in a disguise or something, and someone spotted him and they're like, that's the guy, get him.
Exactly. That's what happened. He was in a convoy. He was disguised as a German soldier. They were leaving to go to Switzerland, and it got stopped.
Nice try.
There's a really good chance they were tipped off that he was in there, but they stopped the convoy, and then they found him, his girlfriend, and a few of his cronies, and they were apprehended there, later taken to a villa. I forget the name of the town precisely, but that's where they stayed overnight in that villa. And then the next morning they were executed in front of the villa, and then brought to Milan the next day. It's a very dark conversation here.
Gruesome
and then their
story,
bodies were displayed in Piazza Loreto.
So tell me a little bit more about this town on the northern point of Lake Como.
Yeah. So what's really cool about it is they have a museum there called the End of War Museum, because what I think one thing that gets overshadowed about Lake Como, given that, it has its reputation for jet setters, the A-list celebrities, its history. Yeah, exactly. The Clooney's. And then, everyone, I remember, well, now I think they've separated, but when Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck remarried, or I don't think they married the first time they got back together, they married, they honeymooned at Lake Como. So yeah. I mean, it does have all of that. It is very alluring, but there's also, a deeper rooted history to it. And especially during World War II, there was a lot of partisan activity happening there, as that this area was still under, the Nazi control, and so I guess Mussolini's control as well. So a lot of partisan activity was happening there, and in the hills and everything like that. And with, them trying to stop the Germans from passing through and everything. But anyway, so this museum, the End of War Museum, documents that chapter of the lake's history and whatnot. And it's really interesting to see. And there are some cool restaurants there, what are called croti, which were caves built into the rock whose natural climate made them ideal for aging salamis and cheese and wine.
Wow.
Yeah. And now they have a couple of them have become restaurants. My favorite, it's Crotto Isidoro, it's called, and it's incredible. And they serve local specialties. And it's a seasonal restaurant, obviously, because, in the winter it's too cold.
A little chilly in the cave.
There, yeah. But it's pretty much like open air with a view of the lake, and it's incredible.
That must be amazing, dining in a cave on a lake. Oh, man. That sounds great. What's the name of it again?
Crotto Isidoro.
Oh, beautiful. All right. Great tip. Thanks, Jackie.
You're welcome.
Let's talk about some of the other lakes, because like I said, everyone's heard of Lake Como, but there's a bunch of them up there in the lakes region, and maybe we can find a off the beaten path gem. Tell me about some of the other lakes and some of your other favorite places to go.
Okay, so I love Lake Garda. I've gotten to know it pretty well in recent years. What I find so interesting about that particular lake is that it sort of, it straddles three different regions of Italy. On one side is Lombardy. On the other side is the Veneto, or like around, so it's in the province of Verona there. And then in the north is Trentino, part of like the Trentino Alto Adige region of Italy as well. And all of these different sort of local traditions and influences are apparent in all the different places of the lake you go. So when you're visiting there, again, I think car is best if you can do that. A few options are, what's great is the Freccia trains, the high-speed trains that run between Milan and Venice, stop at two towns on the lake. It's Desenzano del Garda and Peschiera del Garda.
Okay. So you could do it without a car if you really wanted to, I guess.
You can, yes, you absolutely can. And what's cool about that too is even if you don't want to drive the whole way, you can rent cars when you get to those places to go further around the lake. There's a really charming town on the southern part of the lake called Sirmione. It's really close to Desenzano. And the thing about that town, though, is that's probably one of the most mob towns. It gets like Lake Como level of crowds. You see, like what I was saying before about Verena and Lake Como over the summer, like you have to see these videos on TikTok of that train station when people were trying to get the last train back to Milan.
Oh,
and there's something similar. Something similar happens in Sirmione as well because it's easily connected to Desenzano. So I think it's a great town to see, but I also think it's cool to go a little further up the lake. I think and I would say probably too, the main difference between Lake Como and Lake Garda is that Lake Garda, there's still like a glamorous component to it, but it feels like less so. It's a little more pared down. There's something more, it's more relaxed, and it does feel a little more rustic. I think it's really great for outdoorsy activities as well. Like when you're there, you just see cyclers all over. And of course you can go cycling and hiking around Lake Como too, but Lake Garda just feels a little more relaxed in that sense.
Nice.
My favorite town there is called Malcesine. It's up in the northwestern part of the lake. The northeast part of the lake in the province of Verona on the Veneto side. And it's really charming. When you're there, it gets crowded. There's crowds of people visiting, but it's nowhere near the level of Lake Como. And a lot of the tourists are actually German speakers as well. So I don't know if they're coming from Austria or from Germany or even the region of Italy in the Alto Adige part, which was once part of Austria. They're German native speaking, German mother tongue there as well. So there's a lot of German speakers around there as well. Even like the stores sell all German newspapers too.
Oh, okay. Do you see like German restaurants or German dishes? Would I see schnitzel on the menus at all?
No, you don't see, maybe at some places, but I feel like a lot of the restaurants do a good job of trying to have, the local food, the lake food, the lake cuisine, lake fish and everything. But you will but of course, there are places that do cater to tourists where you're going to find menus with familiar items. Like you see at Lake Como as well, like, cacio e pepe and amatriciana. And there's nothing wrong with these dishes and
Roman
everything
dishes,
like that.
though.
But I think it's good to and I understand some places might have them as an option for people who are looking for something familiar. But I think it's always good to look the menus over before you go into anywhere, just to see if there's something that's like unfamiliarly good to you or unfamiliarly appealing that might be more typical of the lake.
There's a lot more food and travel at destinationeatdrink.com. I just posted a new story about the famous balsamic vinegar of Modena and the place that's been making the rich elixir for over 400 years. You can read that at destinationeatdrink.com/blog. And speaking of Modena, I have a brand new food and travel guide to this city available at buymeacoffee.com. In addition to balsamic, there's a special flatbread, a black walnut liqueur, and a vibrant market. You can download your copy at buymeacoffee.com/destinationeatdrink. I also posted a brand new video. This one is a food crawl in Culver City, California. I share some of the best spots in the city, including my favorite taco joint on all of the West Coast, plus a tip for getting 6 tacos in one. Watch that by clicking on the video tab at destinationeatdrink.com or go to my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/@destinationeatdrink946. You mentioned lake seafood, and that must be an important point because, when we think seafood in Italy, we're thinking Mediterranean cuisine, tuna and, all these other things that come out of the Mediterranean. But when we're in North, we're talking freshwater seafood. So it must be a completely different type of thing. What's that like?
Yeah. So, there's a lot of dishes rooted in, the tradition of lake fish. I would say probably going back to Lake Como, I think the most popular preparation there, they're called misoltini. They're fish they're lake fish. They're pretty much like a type of shad fish. They're called agone. They're little fish that, once upon a time I believe the season was in October. They were just like in abundance in the lake and, they were fished out and they were preserved, treated in a way so that they were preserved for a very long time to last. And nowadays you see that a lot around, especially in Lake Como with polenta, they serve it, or in pasta. It's very, very strong and very pronounced. In fact, some places you go to when you order it, they warn you about it before. They're like, this, have you had this? They're like, è molto forte, è molto forte. They'll tell you it's very strong, the flavor. So they'll tell you that in advance. But it's really, I like it a lot. Especially when it's served over like little, polenta blocks or the grilled polenta. It's delicious.
Polenta, of course, is a big dish in northern Italy. We might see it more frequently than even pasta in some places, polenta. So I imagine there's lots of polenta around the lakes region, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Especially when you're hiking near Lake Como, it's really close to like the Valtellina and that northern part of Lombardia, the Alps. So when you're there, they have polenta, the standard cornflour polenta, but there's also another type called polenta torragna, which is it mixes some buckwheat flour in there as well.
Wow. Oh, fantastic. I love buckwheat.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. When we were in Bari last year, they had, and I can't remember the name of it, but they made deep fried polenta squares. And, what they would do is they would dry out the polenta because it would just evaporate in the fryolator, but they would dry out the polenta for a period of time and then they deep fry it. And it's the best late night snack ever. You buy a sack of these things for like €2 or something. And I think someone needs to bring that to the Lakes region because, man, it goes great with a beer or a glass of wine or just, walking around food. It's a great little snack, and it's perfect. It's a perfect way to use old polenta that's been sitting around for a while.
That sounds glorious. I love that. Yes.
Next time you go to Bari, I'll tell you the place to go.
Please do. Yes. I'm going to Google that too and see if maybe there's a way I can replicate it at home or something.
I'm sure you could. It's a great way to use a day old polenta. I haven't tried it at my house, but I think it would be great. So we did Lake Como, Lake Garda. How about maybe Lake Orta or Maggiore?
Yeah. So, okay. Lake Orta is really, I like Lake Orta. It has, it's one of those I don't want to say it's if you know kind of place, because I feel like it is pretty well known right now, especially among food travelers or Michelin starred, people who are fans of Michelin star dining, because there's Villa Crespi there, and that's where it's a 5-star hotel, and one of Italy's 14 3-star Michelin restaurants is there. The restaurant by Antonino Canavocciolo. He's a chef from Campania. So I know people I did a food tour once for a couple who were here for, one of them had a milestone birthday and they were here for that. And after Milan, they were going to Villa Crespi. They were staying there and having dinner there. It's a nice special occasion kind of place. And it's really charming to walk around as well, because you don't get the same amount of crowds that you get at these other lakes. It'll be a lot of Italians and perhaps some Swiss as well coming over there.
What about Lake Maggiore?
So that's another beautiful lake. That's another one you can drive to, but you can also reach it from Milan as well on trains. That lake is split between Lombardy and Piedmont. And I have to say my favorite town there is on the Piedmont side. It's called Stresa. It's really beautiful. In fact, Ernest Hemingway actually spent some time there when he was in Italy, and it's mentioned in A Farewell to Arms.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, it's really beautiful. The architecture, there's a lot of these, Art Nouveau Liberty style buildings. And it's famous also for the creation of a type of cookie. They're called margheritine di Stresa. They're little, almost like butter cookies. They're shaped like daisies and covered in powdered sugar. And they're apparently named for the Queen Margherita, who, the one who they say, the Neapolitan pizza is named after. I know that's a very controversial can of worms, which I won't open because I know that there are some issues surrounding that. But the fact is that Queen existed, and these cookies were actually made for her first communion by a local baker there.
Oh, nice.
And so, yeah.
That's a nice story. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a beautiful town. And I think, and then you can take the boat to go over. They're called the Borromei Islands or the Borromeani Islands, something. The Borromeo family is an old, Italian nobility family. And, they have these islands named after them in the lake, and they're so beautiful.
When we were in Milan a couple years ago, you told us some great places for gelato. And I know that you're a big gelato fan because you know all the places in Milan. What about in the Lakes region? Do you have a favorite gelato place that you like to go to?
Yeah. So in Como City itself, there's a place called J-Lab. It's really great. And they have a really cool flavor. They make a gelato flavor of buffalo mozzarella, and it's really good.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really, really from buffalo milk, pretty much, or
Sure.
I should say buffalo milk, not mozzarella, but a buffalo milk gelato flavor. That's incredible. And they also do one of a flavor that I love called cremino, which is one of those little square candies. You probably see them when you're shopping in Italy. They're always if you're in a tabaccaria, or even they're always at the counter. They're little chocolates that sometimes they're like 3 levels. Sometimes there's like an almond flavor on the inside, or like a hazelnut flavor on the inside.
Okay, so he folds those little candies into the vanilla gelato, into the plain gelato.
Yes, it's made. Well, the gelato itself, I can't remember if it has the candy chunks in it, but when you eat it, it tastes just like a cremino. So maybe they're like mushed, they're whatever. Yeah, I don't know the precise technical steps he uses, but they're so nice. It's so nice. So those are my 2 favorite flavors there. There's another gelateria called Rossetti. that during Concord grape season makes a great Concord grape gelato. So I like going there for that in the fall.
Okay. So before we wrap this up, Jackie, any other dishes, that are unique to the Lakes region, or any other dishes at restaurants that you particularly like that we've left out so far?
So yes, I would definitely say if you're visiting the Lakes region, especially around Lake Como, to look for polenta uncha. You can have
More
that.
Polenta,
it's on the menu.
great.
Yes.
Polenta
this is
uncha.
Uncha, it's called. Yes. And it's made with, so that, Croto Isidoro that I told you about makes a fantastic one. They do it with polenta turania. They mix in the buckwheat flour, and it's topped with, a local cheese, usually, it's a cheese called semuda that's typical of the area, and it's melted on top of it. And then it's doused in like sage garlic butter. And it's really incredible. Yeah.
Now you're talking my language.
It's like and there's a restaurant too that I also like called Trattoria San Biagio, and that's definitely if you know kind of restaurant. It's in like the Larian Triangle, which is sort of like that patch of land where between like Como, Bellagio, and Lecco. It's around the town of Erba, and it's this really charming trattoria that's just open, or at least it was just open 4 days a week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday for dinner, Sunday for lunch. It's owned by a sweet couple, Anita and Danilo, and they have polenta uncha on the menu year round there. They don't mix in the buckwheat flour, but they use a cheese from a very small farm, a very small like dairy nearby, which is kind of cool. And yeah, it's just delightful. And I think of it more as like a winter dish, but I'm not opposed to having it in the summer as well if it's a cooler night.
Beautiful. Well, this has just been great, Jackie, catching up with you. Folks should check you out at signorinainmilan.com. I love talking about the Lakes region, but there's so many other I think Milan is such a great place to base yourself to do all of these different things. And I'd love to have you back to talk about some different day trips away from the Lakes region, different places. Would you like to come back next week and we'll discuss some of those places?
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Well, great having you this week, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, there you go. Check out Jackie's blog at signorinainmilan.com. She posts so much great stuff about her city, and you can also book a tour with Jackie. And like she just said, Jackie will be back next week to talk about more day trips from Milan, including Bergamo and one of my favorite food cities in all of Italy, Turin. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss that. Destination Eat Drink is distributed by the Radio Misfits Podcast Network and Ed Silla. Thanks, Ed. I'm Brent Peterson, and I will see you down the road.
Join us next week for another culinary adventure on Destination Eat Drink, a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.